3, 2, 1. Yo ho, a pirate's life for first days with Moire. I didn't get any time to practice that. How's it going tonight, guys? I'm your host, Ian Taylor, and this is the 85th episode. 85th episode. Sorry, 86th episode. There's so many, I'm losing track. Where we're talking all about the Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy, because there was never any other films ever made, just the original three, and they were great. I'm your host, Ian Taylor. Joining me tonight is my co-host, Devin Kane, and we have a special guest with us tonight. Who the fuck is this guy? Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey, be Tad. Avast me, mateys. I am here to review your pirate movies.
Alright. Why did I know that was gonna happen?
Yar. Yar. What be a horny pirate's worst nightmare? A sunken chest with no booty.
Jolly good chest. Who are you really? Who's your real identity? Let's not use their fake names.
I mean, my real name is Tad. I am a amateur filmmaker, animator, artist. I kind of dabble in a little bit of everything. I'm a chronic dabbler, you might say.
Oh,
yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm also a pirate enthusiast.
Yar.
And
Yar.
Devin, what do you do?
Currently I'm eating a Jamaican patty because that's the closest ethnic food that I have in relevance to tonight's discussion. So I didn't eat anything else today.
Yeah,
so
me
that's
too.
what I'm currently doing. I do a lot of other things. I think chronic dabbler is pretty apt. It's not as bad as the chronic dabbers, who are the people that can't stop dabbing, and it's just like a compulsion at this point. That's me dunking on them kids.
Those people should really, maybe get checked because that might be like an illness or something.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, definitely more.
Like a twitch or something.
It might be terminal. Like you could spread it. Then everyone's gonna dab, and people are gonna start doing the moonwalk. And...
Like that laughing hysteria.
Yeah.
Where people just started laughing, and then it just got contagious, and the whole town was laughing, and it was.
Anyways,
chaos. Chaos.
This has nothing to do with pirates. About pirates.
This is what we do on this show every week, though. We create chronic laughter.
That's true. That's what we aim to do, and I fail miserably at it, so I'm not good at my job.
And I would also make the argument that this podcast is a treasure. So
Aww,
hey,
that's so sweet. Took you all night to come up with that one. It is.
It's a real diamond in the rough, a real undiscovered, uncut gem.
Well, you guys should probably
lurking in the valley depths of YouTube.
I mean,
buried
you guys
by the algorithm and Bill C11.
You should know, not all treasure is silver and gold, because
this
first movie, Curse of the Black Pearl, is a treasure made in a magical time where Walt Disney Corporation gave a shit and actually trusted directors to make some good movies. I'm just joking. So many projects were butchered around this time. This film was a nightmare to shoot. Disney constantly wanted scenes changed and certain scenes cut. There were huge controversies about the rating of the movie. Apparently the director fought really hard to not make an R-rated movie, despite the fact that it's really kind of pretty tame by today's standards, but I guess at the time for Walt Disney, so if it seemed pretty brutal, but looking back on it now, it's a classic. Let's talk about it. Curse of the Black Pearl. What the fuck is it about? Well, it opens up with a flashback of Keira Knightley's character as a child, meeting Will Turner for the very first time. Cut to present day. They're currently on an island on the shore of the Caribbean, and Will Turner is a blacksmith. Keira Knightley is the daughter of a very wealthy man, a very well-respected man, who is to be married to a general. A general who gets tied up with the one and only Captain Jack Sparrow.
Spoiler alert, guys. Spoiler alert.
Oh, yeah, spoiler alert for all three movies.
Be pirates on this Caribbean.
God, there's pirates in your pirate movie? No fucking way.
There hasn't been this many pirates in a movie since SpongeBob the movie. Or, wait, I guess that came out afterwards, did it? 2004?
Yeah, it did. So, not quite.
I think pirates had a brief resurgence around this period of time.
Yeah, it launched pirates
this was like 2003, and then suddenly there was pirates everywhere, including in SpongeBob.
Yeah, including in video games.
Well,
Like,
I mean, like the whole franchise of like pirate films was kind of dead in the water,
Hmm.
pun intended, when like this film came out. So like, yeah, this film was kind of like one of the things that kind of like started that resurgence,
the funny
and it
thing
was
is,
also
yeah,
one of the reasons why we got so many of those shitty Disney movies that are based on theme park rides, like the
yep.
Haunted Mansion.
Or
Yeah, like
Tomorrowland. Remember that movie?
it's like they do it once and it's successful, and then they think all the theme park rides deserve movies, but no.
I mean, the
Um,
Haunted
but
Mansion should have been a great movie. In fairness, that had
yeah,
a lot of
this
missed
is
potential.
this is also the period of time where online piracy had quite a peak, or it started ascending, and there was that ad for you wouldn't steal a car or you wouldn't download
Yeah,
the
you wouldn't.
plans to build your own AR-7.
Yeah, because that is very similar.
Which is a bold fucking move to
To pirate.
assume that I wouldn't steal a car.
Yeah,
Like-
God, like, you think I'm a basic bitch? Come on.
Yeah,
The
I
fuck?
mean, like if I see a Ferrari sitting in the parking lot and the keys are in the ignition, I mean,
Like,
you know,
it's
pretty much
a
awesome.
free Ferrari, man. Like, that's just normal.
Five-finger discount, man.
Maybe Curse of the Black Pearl started that trend. Who knows?
We,
But what the fuck is it about? It is about
Disclaimer: we don't actually
yeah.
advocate for stealing. Just,
yeah, no,
this is
we do
us
not
having-
advocate stealing whatsoever.
Us having fun, right?
Also,
Anyway,
please
go on, you were
pirate
saying.
Disney movies.
I
Because they
do.
suck.
Go nuts, guys.
All right.
Yes.
Sorry.
Pirate Disney movies. Take down the mouse from inside the house.
Yeah. God, I'm trying to focus on plot here. Come on.
What
All right,
plot?
So,
Sorry.
yeah, the plot of this movie is that all the pirates get wrapped up into Barbossa, who rides around on the Black Pearl in the search for mortality, and everybody
Played
gets
by
wrapped
the
up in
great
this
Jeffrey
crazy...
Rush.
Yeah, the
So,
cast
I think,
in general of this movie.
I think we should just acknowledge that Jeffrey Rush was pretty much born to be a pirate. Like he is absolutely soaking in this role. Like
He just milks
loves every minute of it.
every
He just looks
scene.
the part. He acts the part. It's awesome.
Yeah,
Like
it.
he is definitely one of the best parts of this movie.
Yeah, he has
And,
like so much
he-
charisma, so much personality. Like, you best start believing in ghost stories, Miss Turner. You're in one.
And a good villain too. Like he's actually got like a good sympathetic kind of backstory.
Like, it's
and,
a little
you
cliche,
don't-
but it
you
works.
don't- Well, I wouldn't even say it's cliche. Like I think it actually makes a lot of sense. Like, I mean,
works,
the guy,
absolutely.
the way
Yeah.
he talks about it, and the way he talks about how like, oh, I feel nothing. Not the breeze on my face or the warmth of
touch of a
the woman's flesh. Like it sounds like an absolute shit show. Like
Yeah, very
anybody would
harrowing.
want this fucking curse removed.
Oh yeah, like it makes
Oh,
it
yeah.
way more relatable. It's just the methods that they're doing to maintain their goal that is so sadistic and brutal. And that's when.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Also, his death scene, beautiful.
Oh,
like
it's
I
perfect.
love
yes.
it.
That's where it should have ended.
Yes, 100%.
Well,
Right?
alright.
Like, okay. Let me get this out of the way right now, because I'm sure we'll talk about the movies individually, but like I kind of want to just rant a little bit. So if you can put like 2 minutes on the clock and just let me like kind of get out my frustrations with the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. That okay?
2 minutes starting now.
Do it.
Okay. Here's my problem with the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. All right? Like this franchise has this really annoying habit of wrapping things up in a neat little bow and being like, there, this character and this character arc and his story, it's all done. It's wrapped up. It's nice. It's pretty. Look at that. Happily ever after. And then in the next movie, undoing that bow so they can wrap it all up again. Like, it drives me nuts. Like,
I don't.
like the whole franchise does this, and it does it multiple times.
I don't think it's
Jeffrey
as bad
Rush
as 4 or 5.
should not have been brought back. Jeffrey Rush should not have been brought back. He was like,
I agree with that.
his ending to his character arc was perfect. Will Turner, Elizabeth shouldn't have been brought back. They had their happily ever after in their first movie. Didn't need to have them come back. Like, and then they gotta fucking do it again when like in the 5th one where he's just like, oh yeah, now we're bringing Davy Jones back. I guess that's
and now
never
we're gonna have
happen.
kids
Like,
that are
good
conveniently
Lord.
related to the characters because we can't have well-established characters on their own right. I want to fight the new movies. But yeah,
thought
like
4 and
this.
5 didn't exist. Like I thought those were just fever
Oh yeah,
dreams.
that's right. Yeah, what are you talking about,
No,
man?
they
I haven't heard.
exist.
No,
They
I
exist.
Uh,
No,
before.
no,
I,
Stranger
Okay,
I
you
don't know.
must
I
be
don't know if
talking
they
about foreign
exist in your
countries then,
universe.
because they don't exist.
I will die on this hill. Stranger Tides is the only good sequel. The rest
Oh,
are all
fuck
kind of like
you.
mediocre
Fuck
at best.
you. That movie
Nope.
is
Is,
terrible.
is that just because it's the most expensive one made?
It's
It
because
has
it
No,
has
more.
not
It
sex
at
was
all.
made with
mermaids in
more.
it.
It was
Here's the
made
thing.
with more money. There, ergo, it's better.
No, no, not at all. Here's the reason why I think Stranger Tides is better. All right,
Why's
this
that?
franchise tries to do like a Lord of the Rings epic story, where it's like, oh yeah, we're telling it in 3 parts. Big mistake. Big mistake. This film
2 minutes
series,
up.
this franchise should not have been
No, keep going.
Lord of the Rings. This franchise should have been Indiana Jones. Every single movie should have just been Jack Sparrow going on a treasure hunt. There's fucking obstacles in his path, and he has to overcome them, and he either gets the treasure at the end or he doesn't. Stranger Tides is the one that is most like that. That's literally all it is. It's just a treasure hunt. It's
But
simple.
Barbosa
it's
comes
sweet,
back in that movie.
It's not overly complicated. I love it. So,
All
yeah.
right. we'll get
All right,
more into that more. All right, Devin, what'd you think of Curse of the Black Pearl?
I think it's by far the best one still. Like
Agreed.
I remember watching these films quite a bit when they first came out. Like this was my childhood for a minute. Like I was hot on this franchise like everybody else when they were first rolling out. And I think the first one holds up exceptionally well. The pacing of it is very well done. I was watching a kind of a breakdown video that explains a little more why, but they have, scenes where there's multiple stuff going on. There's a lot of sleight of hands, kind of set up and payoff and rule of thirds, and um, I mean all that's to say, I think it's just a really well paced movie, and I just found it super fun and enjoyable. The other two, I just kind of glazed over when watching them. Um, like there were certain scenes that like grabbed my attention, but for the most part, it just kind of trods along.
All right.
But I think the first one absolutely is still a solid film. Although there's definitely we'll get to the third one, but there's moments in that that I really enjoy.
Nice.
That we'll get to later. But no, I think the first film was absolutely solid still. It was really interesting to me just like how much of the dialogue I understood this time watching it. Like a lot of it just went over my head when I was a little kid because they're using very old school elevated language. It's very witty dialogue actually.
Yeah,
Like lots
it's
of
very fun.
and
Yeah, the
and
script in the
yeah,
first one is
I
really,
think
really good.
I think the writing of it is actually really solid.
Well, the
Which
characters
is why
play
it's
off
held up
each
so
other
well.
so well, which I think is like
Mhm.
a key part of what makes it work. Like Keira Knightley's character is like, it's kind of the trope of the, she's expected to be this posh, pretty girl, but deep down, like she's kind of a badass that wants to go on her own adventures, and she gets pitted
I
with
think
like other pirates that kind of like, tempt that in the wrong direction. It's like, well, these are the consequences that you have to face if you're going on a big adventure. And top
I
that
think
off of
Keira
Johnny
Knightley's
Depp.
character is a good example of a damsel in distress done right.
Oh, because she isn't even a damsel in distress. She wants to be caught, and that's such like a clever subversion on that trope. I even like the scene where they're like,
Well, she's in distress, but she's her own person, and she can stand up for herself, even though
yeah, she
she was
has
caught in
agency.
these precarious
Yeah.
situations. Like, oh yeah,
And not only that, like she's also
she,
like
she,
out of her element a little bit, so it makes sense that she's kind of
she's
like
out
in
of her
this.
element, but she's really into like pirates, and she kind of lets that be known at times when she's able to quote certain codes. Like it definitely does something for her. All this excitement. Um,
Actually, I find the
and
pirate's life quite fascinating. Yes, that's what concerns me.
arousing.
Arousing, yeah. But then and that's like a really interesting dynamic. But then you top like Johnny Depp's, Jack Sparrow, this charismatic weirdo that always finds a way to get himself out of trouble in a quick flash with this. Will Turner's my least favorite character in this series. I'll give you that. Like he's a block of wood. He's just not
He's
that
good in this
interesting.
first one, but
I don't
definitely
know
what
about
first one and the second one. So I mean, he may be like the least developed part of it, but I still think he holds his own pretty well in the first one. Um, and it's sort of like he wants to admit that he has feelings for Keira Knightley's character, and Keira Knightley wants him to admit that he has feelings, but he can't because of his social status. So
I
there's
mean,
that kind of tension going throughout.
he's basically just there to be the swashbuckling archetype.
He's there to play off of Johnny
Like,
Depp. Like he's there to be like the kind of
yeah, he's
stone
the
faced
straight
character
man.
to play off this charismatic weirdo. throughout the
Well,
entire movie.
here's the other thing. Johnny Depp was never meant to be like the main character.
Nope.
He was always kind of a side character, and that's where the focus switches in the sequels, where he's great as like a really accentuated side character in this first film, but then when they kind of turn him into the main character in the other films, that's where a lot of people argue that the franchise kind of loses focus because he makes sense as this sort of foil throughout rather than
Yeah,
the
he's a
main
good
focus.
sidekick. He's not really a great like main focus.
If that makes
I
any
mean,
sense.
I think he can hold his own as a film as a character. He just has to have something to do,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And
Like,
this trilogy
again,
gives
that kind
him.
of goes back to my whole
Yeah.
thing where like this franchise really should just been like treasure hunt movies. Like
Like I think it
it,
is in a way. Like I think the original trilogy does like a decent job of giving him something to do. But past that, it's just kind of like, I don't know. Jack Sparrow is helping out some kids. I don't know. Jack Sparrow is talking to Blackbeard. Like you can tell, like they just had no idea what to do with his character, and his passion kind of sinks,
Mhm.
arguably after the main trilogy.
Well, like they had a certain idea for him in mind in the script that he was just gonna be this kind of comic relief Marx Brothers kind of slapstick sort of character where Johnny really created a lot of it, himself, of what he like the quirks and certain elements of his character he sort of helped create. So it is something of his own creation, and Disney melts that as much as they could.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, because he's like popular, and everyone was like, "Oh, I love Jack Sparrow," so they just think, "Oh, everybody just wants a movie about Jack Sparrow." It's kind of the same problem that the Minions had, where it's like, "Oh, everybody talked about the Minions in one movie, and now we can't stop fucking seeing them everywhere." Like studios just
Yeah,
don't really understand what people want because they say they like someone in a movie, but they don't necessarily say that's all I want to see because then they'll just get sick of seeing them. Like it's a franchise issue you could easily run into. And
yeah, like
yeah.
he really works well within the framework that he's given, and he absolutely fills that. Where if they change that framework, then and he's the main focus, then the whole dynamic is kind of different, right? So they become different movies when he's the main focus.
Absolutely. And like you said about the pacing, like this movie is almost 2.5 hours long, and this is the only movie in the trilogy where I really don't feel the length, like at all. Like it
Yeah,
just flies by every single time I
100%,
watch it.
yeah.
Like it's
it's
No.
amazing.
definitely the most rewatchable of the three. You
I'd
get the
agree.
most
Oh well,
Yeah.
not only
out of
like
it.
you can just I don't know. There's something about this first one you can just really taste the passion.
Yeah.
Like I I don't know. It's just one of those things where like you can tell like everybody involved was like, no, 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 we got something good on our hands.
Yeah.
Even though
Everyone
the
was on their
studio
A
is saying
game.
like, oh, like I don't know. It's just one of it's the little kind of blockbuster that could in a way. It was kind of like this
It's the
movie
kind of
that
movie
just
we just don't get enough of anymore. Just like a fun pirate swashbuckling adventure out in the high seas with a good budget and a solid atmosphere. I wanted to bring this up real quick. Gore Verbinski is well known for directing horror movies, and this trilogy has plenty of horror elements, especially
I
in the
thought he was
second
more
movie.
of a comedic director. Like, wasn't his first
Well,
movie Mouse Hunt?
well, I think he's a comedic director, but he's
Shit,
also done
yeah.
horror as well. Like he
I,
said,
I,
that's
I,
the genre he's most passionate about if he had to pick
man,
one.
that is some nostalgic whiplash right there. I fucking loved Mouse Hunt as a kid.
That's a name I
Right?
haven't heard in
I
quite
had
some
no
time.
idea that he directed that. That's nuts.
Yeah,
That's
no,
I
he
think I
did
might
that.
have learned that at some point, but I forgot. And I'm like, man, I like this movie. Like I was watching that, and it's just so I don't know. We have to talk about Mouse Hunt at some point now. Now that you just
100%.
mentioned
That
it
is like
offhand.
classic slapstick comedy at its finest.
All right.
I love that
Oh
movie.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, we keep
Anyways,
getting sidetracked.
yeah, sorry, back to the movie. I was gonna say, like, he clearly has like a passion for horror, and I think that's one thing that kind of makes these movies stand out is that they all kind of have these strange horror elements to an extent. And the first one, like, there's kind of like a weird sense of mystery, like you know the curse is inexplainable, you don't know how it works, and it's affecting people in different ways and causing everyone to turn against each other. There's a great like kind of horror of the mind element with that, and I think like the special effects on the skeletons
would,
actually look pretty good for the time.
I would disagree on the whole like the you don't know how it works. I think if anything, what makes this movie work best is that they establish the rules.
Well, they established the rules of like how to make it work,
Yeah,
but
like they
there's never
established the rules like,
establishing
oh,
like
it's in the
how it
moonlight,
works.
they can't die. You know, the only way that they can lift the curse is everybody
Yeah,
gives a
but they
blood
never say like
sacrifice.
what the curse is or who started the curse or anything like that. They don't over explain it. like they would
Sure.
if they
Okay.
probably
Fair
made
enough.
this movie now. And I like that sense of air of mystery and creepiness to it that all of these films have to an extent. Even the third one, which we'll get into later. But it gives these films a unique identity, and I kind of wish more big budget blockbusters would play around with like dark themes and horror elements and just like getting under the audience's skin to a certain extent. Like Disney especially is afraid to do anything like that anymore. And I feel like that's why people say like these films just don't get made anymore. Like blockbusters that still have like an tangible atmosphere and style to it.
Yeah. Okay.
That was quite a pause. I thought like the,
Yeah.
the,
Yeah.
the signal
I
cut
was.
out there for a minute.
Yeah, I thought we cut out there. We gotta talk about the music. Holy shit.
Hans
Great,
Zimmer.
iconic soundtrack. Yeah, I think we can agree the best part of this trilogy is the music. Absolutely, 100%.
Oh
It
yeah.
just
Oh yeah.
adds so much energy to
Not
each
just this,
scene. It
not
explores the
just in this
characters really
film, but
well.
all the films. Like, maybe not
All
the
of
last
those.
one, the fifth one. Like,
Yeah,
in like all of the movies, like Hans Zimmer is just fucking killing it in these
yeah.
series.
It adds so much to the atmosphere. I love the kind of like, we'll get into Dead Man's Chest. I love the toy box theme that they use for Davy Jones in that movie. I love how like in the first movie when Jack arrives, which by the way, that's the perfect scene. It's really funny, but also explains everything we need to know about the character. Like the
Oh
ship
yeah.
is
The way.
literally sinking, and he's proudly accepting his demise and just playing it off like nothing's wrong. And the music kind
Just
of like,
moving forward.
yeah, and the music like is paced perfectly. Like it plays this triumphant music when he's like bowing to the other people, and I love the violins that play when it shows like the town for the first time, and then like the trumpets kick in as he's like arriving on the sinking ship. Like
Also,
it's so perfectly
one of
done.
the things I kind of really liked about Jack Sparrow as a character is that you're never quite sure if he makes this shit up as he goes along or if he actually plans this far ahead and like
It's
it's
a
just that
mix.
really good of like a tactician.
I think that's what something like 4 and 5 is sorely lacking for me. It's like that they kind of play him off like he's an idiot, like just a bumbling idiot. But in the original trilogy, like yeah, he'd bumble around a lot and seem like a weirdo. But
No,
he
I'd
deep
say
down
in
he
four
always
he's
knew.
very much. I'd say
I
the one my
mm,
one problem with four is that they actually leaned a little bit more into like he is a tactician, and he's just like, oh yeah, he plans it all out, like he's dropping the scarf and they're doing all that kind of shit. Like, if anything, I kind of like that's one flaw against that film that I kind of do agree with is that like yeah, they should have left that ambiguous and just had it be
yeah,
like
exactly. But it's like he's mad, but you get the impression like he still somehow knows what he's doing. Like I love the scene when they're underwater with the boat, and then Milton is like, I can't tell if this is madness or brilliance. It's amazing how often the two coincide. I'm just like that. Just
Oh
perfectly
yeah.
describes Jack Sparrow as a character. That's something
Yeah,
that's sorely
I love.
lacking in the newer
I
movies.
really appreciated some of the dialogue and the witticisms of this film. Watching it this time, like I definitely didn't appreciate a lot of that as a kid, but
Hmm
it definitely stood out a lot more watching it this time.
Yeah. Even
yeah,
like,
and there's a lot of like adult things in the two, like
yeah,
when
oh
oh
yeah,
my god, when like the guy's just like oh, and it's like he thought you would say that, and in that case, he say if that be the case, then you'll be dining with the crew, and you'll be naked.
yeah, like that
Like
was really funny. And she
oh
takes the
shit,
dress, and they're like, "Aw." Yeah, those two are like pretty funny. And I normally hate like the dumb henchman duo that Disney always puts in their movies and kind of ruins it to an extent. Disney's Hercules is a really infamously bad example of that, in my opinion. But they actually kind of work. Like they never take up too much screen time, and they always kind of show up at just the right moment when it's getting too dark. Like they're paced in like just right in this trilogy, and they're very entertaining. And I
we
wanted
live
to talk.
your ear puppets.
Come out. And they had a joke in Dead Man's Chest that had me just on the floor laughing. We'll get to it, but man, it was good. So yeah, even like the smallest characters have personality. Even I keep forgetting the general's name that falls in love with Elizabeth. I keep forgetting
Norrington.
Norrington. Like even he is like he's not like the generic typical asshole character that's kind of like, oh, the government guy is gonna foil this fun character's plans. He's like that to an extent, but you also kind of care for him because he genuinely seems like a nice person that wants to do right by Elizabeth. And I actually like how he isn't just a generic asshole villain character. He does have like a little bit of depth to him. You do actually care about him and care about his struggle as well.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I mean, I would say he is kind of the generic asshole until like maybe the last like 20 minutes, like,
Well,
and then
I
that's
mean,
when
even
the
at
character
first, like
kind of.
he's like, yeah, he thinks Jack is a pirate, but that's his job. Like he has a clear care for Elizabeth, that kind of drives his motivation. Pirate or not, this man saved my life. One good deed doesn't make him a good person. Sorry, I could quote this movie back and forth. I've seen this movie like so many times. Like what you said, Devin, with your like Thanksgiving special of watching Galaxy Quest, we have to watch. For some reason, we just have to watch Curse of the Black Pearl like every
Oh yeah.
Thanksgiving season. Like for some reason, it just puts us in the mood. Like maybe it's just the colors and the fun vibes and like the
I can
quotable
see that.
nature
I
of
can
it.
see that.
It's
Like,
not like
oh,
too violent.
yeah.
It's not too dark, despite what I mentioned earlier for kids, but it also has a lot that adults can enjoy. It's just a perfect film for that environment.
Oh, definitely. Like, it definitely. They do such a good job kind of bridging that gap, or at least they have enough horror elements that makes it scary, but it's not too, dark and dramatic, and it's still family friendly. I think Disney had a lot of hands to make sure that that was possible. But I do think I love the um first teaser trailer that they put out for this film, and it just
Hmm.
shows like the shot of all the dead people walking under the ship. The
I
way
love that
they
shot.
composed and lit that scene is perfect,
Yeah.
and it sort of creates this like natural kind of narrowing of the aspect ratio with the ship above and the shadow beneath. It just creates this dread and this tension, and that's a perfect shot to like introduce this film. And I think that's why it was so successful when it came out, partially because of that advertising.
Yeah,
But
and let's talk
yeah,
about that. Like the special effects in this trilogy actually hold up really well, in my opinion, for the most part. There's a few like wonky ones in that World's End, but I think for the most part they do an exceptional job. I think a big part of it is they
I would
shot it.
say the pirates, like the skeleton pirates, are they're getting there. It's not quite to the
They're a
point where
little
it's just like,
dated, but I
ooh,
think
that's
they were
bad.
very smart in how they
not
shot it.
dark
But
yet,
like,
Yeah,
but
and
it's
but
getting
also,
there.
by the way, the fact that it only gets shown in moonlight, perfect excuse to shoot it at
Mhm.
night so you can't notice the bad details and use a lot of smoke and use like moonlight to kind of shine the characters
Yeah.
in an interesting way. Like the way they shot it and color graded
Mhm.
all the special effects, I think like help
It's
make it hold up so well.
it's very exaggerated moonlight too. Like it almost looks like just blue sunlight, but well, that's essentially what moonlight is. But
Mhm.
it's very stylized for sure for the film.
It
But
fits.
for the most part, it works. Like if it's diffused moonlight, then it won't have an effect. But if it's direct moonlight, then it works. But there is some inconsistencies throughout
Yeah.
the film where the skeletons they say they can't feel pain, and so when they get stabbed, Barbosa says that he feels nothing. But then there's so many scenes that were done, I think, deliberately for comedic value for like young people watching it, where the skeletons get stabbed and they scream out in pain. Uh,
Yeah, I noticed that. I was gonna mention that. Like towards the end, when they get like all the pirates like get impaled and like thrown around, they're just like, "Ow, ow, ow!"
yeah,
I'm like, you're not supposed to feel anything.
no, it's like those scenes. Watching them as a kid were hysterical. Like it was just a laugh riot. When you watch them now, it's like kind of funny, ironically, but it's like that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, wait, this doesn't follow your own rules. And even like the action scenes, like there's so much fun. They're really well shot and choreographed. I always love the fight scene between Orlando Bloom and Jack Sparrow. Like that's one of my favorite fight scenes in the trilogy.
It's
It's
it,
just it's so
it's a
fun. It's
very
so creative.
it's a very well written scene too. Like
Yeah.
there's lots of character and tension, and you learn a lot about them by how they fight. Although I did see one video of this swordsman, fight choreographer, and sort of medieval fighting specialist
Mm.
pointing out just how he hates the way Orlando Bloom holds his sword because it doesn't look right.
I
But
think it fits because he's not a professional. Like he's a blacksmith, but he doesn't exactly. Wait, actually, well,
well,
he has been training,
no, he
but
is a yeah, he is a
no,
wait,
professional.
actually, yeah, you're right.
he's
Sorry.
absolutely he's a professional, but
No, you're right.
the place he's holding his thumb isn't fully supporting how he's holding the blade, and it doesn't make sense a little bit. But
Okay, yeah, that's right.
that's nitpicking. But according to the screenwriters, Orlando Bloom's character is supposed to be the best swordsman in the movie. Barbosa and uh, what was it?
David Jones.
Yeah, yeah, like they're supposed to be evenly matched, and then Johnny Depp is supposed to be the worst one, which is why he, cheats a lot.
Mm. Yeah, and I think that element of it is fun too. And I love the line where he's like, "Move, no, please move, no, I will not move aside and let you escape. This shot was not made for you." Like that's the perfect teaser line to be like, "Wait, like who was that shot meant for? If you don't even want to shoot this guy that's clearly in your way." Like that, it
Hmm.
just like I love lines like that that kind of build up like anticipation and payoff, and you're just excited to see like where it, the character takes that direction next. It's a
Yeah,
little line, but that's so much.
no, this movie is like if you ever are a screenwriter and you want to learn about planting and payoff, like this is definitely one of the best movies to watch in
Oh
terms of
yeah, like
that.
it's so clear cut, and that's what makes it so satisfying to watch and engaging. Is that there's.
But it also follows the rules of threes, right? Because like when you're
Hmm.
doing planting and payoff, you're supposed to plant the seed, remind the seed, pay off the seed.
Exactly.
Right.
It's
And
one of
they
my
But
do
favorite
that
writing
throughout this
tricks, and
entire
this
film.
movie
Like
does
I
it
said, like
it's like setup and payoff, or reaping what you sow. There's like two metaphors there. You throw them together. It's planting and payoff. I like that. That's a good metaphor.
did
But
you guys
no,
have
I,
any?
I
Sorry.
I I I agree though. Like this is some expertly written, uh, film. Um, the other ones get a little ambitious.
yeah, which definitely makes me wonder what the fuck happened to the rest of them, right?
Well,
Like
I mean,
alright.
and it's the same people that wrote them, but I think they just had a lot of ideas and they were trying to make them all work, um, which
Yeah.
made for it feeling a bit long, the plot getting a little convoluted. Even watching it, like I thought going into these as an adult, I'd have a much clearer understanding of what the plot was, and I do for the most part, I think, but
Yeah.
there's still
At
moments
World's
where I
End
just kind
feels
of
a little bit rushed. I'll give you that.
well, yeah, I just find myself checking out a lot more during Dead Man's Chest and World's End, where I just find myself like picking up my phone and scrolling stuff while I'm watching, which is like I hate people that do that, and I became that.
The film
I've
brought that
become
out
the
in you.
thing I swore to destroy.
Did you guys have any issues with this movie? Because, like I said, like Will Turner's a block of wood. Anytime he's like trying to have romance with Keira
I, I,
Knightley, I'm just like,
I don't fully
Jesus,
agree that he's a
I
block of
think
wood. I
he's.
mean, they
I
they they,
really
they,
don't
they
like the
might have,
Will.
if they literally casted him as one, like if he was literally just a board of wood, then I might agree with you. Um,
like
uh,
Plank from
yeah, he's
but
a literal plank.
last I checked, so Orlando Bloom is a human person, and he does play the role.
Well,
So you got to give him some credit for being human.
yeah, I
Um,
don't know. Like anytime he was with Keira Knightley, I'm just like, man, she's
I don't know
doing
where
all the heavy
I don't know
lifting.
where.
No,
Uh,
I think their chemistry works fine. I think it's.
Ah,
I think the fact that the
her
film
chemistry
doesn't
works
focus
fine.
on it too much helps in
she,
their
yeah.
favor. Like when they're talking with each other and he's like bandaging up their hands and he's like, oh, blacksmith hands, kind of like it's cute, it's fine. Like
Mhm.
I don't know.
Sure.
I think it's a fine
Yeah.
romance. Like I said,
And
they
like
don't really
you
focus
said,
on
Devin,
it.
there's some dumb moments in the plot. There's like some really annoying plot conveniences, and like there's parts where like the pirates like should do a certain thing, but they do something else just because they want to be
Yeah.
like the hero of the story. But
I do have
yeah,
to point out one thing though. Like Norrington could have been like a real, just like one note kind of villainous character,
hmm
but he seems to take Elizabeth taking more interest in Orlando Bloom's character than you would expect him to. Like he takes that pretty well.
yeah, that was a nice subversion there for sure. I
And then
really
he
like that too.
and then he ends up being a different kind of character in the other films, which I actually to give those films credit, I thought was pretty cool that he sort of has a little more dimension in the other films,
Yeah, like he's
somewhat.
probably one of my favorite characters in like the sequels. Like they do a
Yeah,
great job with
you
him.
know, if you're gonna follow up like this film, like I think everything ties up in a neat bow, just
Oh,
in case that this wasn't gonna turn into a franchise, in case they didn't make their money back, because you never know when you try these first films, right? And then with the other two, oh, we suddenly have all this money, and then they do a lot with it, for better for worse. But I like it when if you're gonna untie these very neat bows we left them in, then they should be weaved into a different knot. You know what I mean? Um,
yeah,
and
True,
true.
I think they did a good job with Norrington, giving him a different kind of character arc than
Yeah,
what he had
I
in the
think
first one.
yeah,
Like
yeah, no,
definitely.
his character kind of he kind of hits like bottom, he kind of hits like rock bottom for a little bit, more or less. he's been kind of disgraced as a captain, and he's all drunk. And you see just a different side of his character. So I like that, and
Yeah,
I wish there was a little more of that in the main character and the other main characters.
fair enough. What would you guys give Curse of the Black Pearl out of 10? Like, I feel like we're kind of just going off about what people said about it already, but what would you guys
I
rate it?
I, I like on a rewatch, it was just as good as I remember it being. It was actually really solid, and there was more that I appreciated in it. I mean, I would give it a solid 8 or 7.5. Like, it's not
Nice.
my favorite film, but I think as far as these films are, it's definitely the better of them. Um, or at least it's the most well-rounded and solid entry. So I'll give it an 8.
I'd agree. Tad?
Yeah, I'll give it a 7.5. I like it. I think it's easily the best of the franchise. It definitely is the best of the franchise. What am I saying? Like, yeah, no. It's just a fun movie. Like, it's just one of those movies that's just like you said. Like, you can put it on, you can enjoy it. It's a fun time, and then like when you're done, you're like, that felt good. I'm glad I rewatched that kind of thing. Like, it definitely holds up,
Mm-hmm.
and it's there's a reason like why it's considered one of the best because God damn it, it's yeah, it's a solid film.
I'm giving this one a 9 out of 10. Love it. Grew up with
Whoa!
it, watched it many
Wow.
times, and yeah, it still holds up. Like, I'm still extremely
Uh,
entertained. It looks great. There's a lot of beautiful cinematography. The music's fantastic. The cast is perfect. I mean, yeah, like it's up there in some of my favorite action movies. Like, it's a classic.
hmm.
Almost everything about it I really like, which is surprising for a live action Disney movie, a live action Disney movie about pirates. So, well done. Next
Oh
up,
yeah, it's definitely a lot better than it had any business being.
wholeheartedly agree.
Mm. That said,
Dead
Chad, you
Man's
want to choose the
Chest.
second film?
Tad, I feel like I'm gonna regret this, but go ahead.
Hey, all right. Well, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's
Two,
Chest.
two,
Spoilers.
It is the what?
Oh, spoiler
two.
alert. Sorry.
Pirates of the
Sorry, you're
Caribbean 2.
yeah.
Yeah, Pirates of the Caribbean 2, Dead Man's Chest. Um, it is the second in the trilogy. Uh, this one is notable for bringing in easily one of the most iconic and interesting villains of the franchise, Davy Jones, played by the always great Bill Nye, not the science guy.
Uh,
What else? And yeah, this was filmed at the same time as At World's End. And yeah, I don't know. Let's just get into it.
you lost me when
Very
you said he
enthusiastic.
wasn't the science guy. Suddenly I'm like, okay,
Science rules.
I just want to watch Bill Nye now.
So this is my second time watching it. I only watched it once, but never got around to watching it again. And I have to say, Tad, you're wrong. Like, I actually think this film is unironically great. It's a little
Nope.
too long. I'll give you that. It's a little too long. It's
It's
a little too
yeah,
messy. But
A little.
very.
I still
A
think
little.
I still think there's a lot of great parts about it. I still enjoyed watching it overall. I think the side of the story dealing with Davy Jones and Will coming to terms with his dad, like those were some of the only moments I didn't hate Will in this trilogy, if I'm being honest. Probably because he plays off of the great, excellent Bill Skarsgård. Is it Bill
Bill
Skarsgård?
Alan
Skarsgård.
Skarsgård.
Yeah, it's is it
Who
Bill?
looks nothing
Like
like
him.
Will, by the way. The entire first movie, they're like, "Oh yeah, you look
Yeah.
just like your father."
He's
Looks nothing.
It happens in movies all the
he's a
time.
much more likable character in this than he was in the last 30 seconds in Nymphomaniac.
And Dune. Yeah. Like, I think their side of the story is great. Like, there's a lot of like really creepy atmosphere. It gets pretty brutal at points. Like, we talked about how the last film got pretty brutal and frisky for a Disney movie. This film straight up has a scene of a guy getting whipped and bloodied like
Mm.
several times. I was just like, Jesus Christ, this is like we've gone from Raiders of the Lost Ark to Temple of Doom. And there's like some good tension with finding out more about Davy Jones and trying to find a way off the ship. Like, I don't know, like that kind of reminded me of like an old like Lovecraftian horror movie of sorts, where it's like this
Yeah.
normal
No,
guy is thrusted into this awful
Yeah.
situation and he has to climb his way out. Outside of
no,
that,
man.
I think
I'm
the
in
film's like
agreement
a
with you, man.
yeah.
Like, I agree. I agree with you. I think all the stuff with Davy Jones is great. It's easily the best part of the movie. The
Y-
rest of the stuff sucks.
I don't
I'm
think it
sorry,
sucks. I
but
think it's like a little more boring and a little more aimless. Like it
it's
does
Yeah,
yeah,
kind of
it's
feel like Jack
totally
on
that.
a
I
Okay,
wacky
that
adventure,
stuff
but I
with
don't
the
think it's
cannibals.
terrible. I
That
think it's
stuff with the
enjoyable.
cannibals, you could like that is like what 15 minutes of film that you could just cut out completely
But that
and
was creepy.
lose
mm,
nothing.
Oh, but that's
I,
such a great scene, though. I love that scene.
But it serves no purpose.
I thought it made for great promotional material. Seeing Jack running from all the cannibals, that was funny.
Yeah,
It's sort of like the complete opposite of how they introduced how they teasered the first film, where it was this very ominous shot of all these dead pirates under a ship. Then you just have like Jack out in the open, he's got all these eyes, and then all these cannibals running after him. It's comedic.
well, I
I don't
mean,
know,
that's
like
not the
Okay,
opening. Like, the opening is
like
very ominous,
so like
though.
they're doing something tonally quite different, and everyone's in on it, and people know who Jack is, and they're just excited to see Jack, and
but they
it's fun,
serve no
and
purpose to
it's
the
fun, but yeah,
movie.
But that's not
They
the
I
serve no
agree
opening.
with you,
purpose to
That's
like.
but
It's
not
not
the
like they
opening.
Tad,
come back later on in the film, or
Well,
but
like
no,
like
but
we just
it's
talked
not
about how great the
necessary.
first one was with planting and payoff. Like,
Yeah,
what the fuck
it's a
is
little
that?
aimless, but it was great. Yeah.
Tad, if it weren't for the cannibal scene, then we wouldn't have had the scene of them swinging in these testicle cages, trying to escape,
Which is a great
off
set
the
piece. I
bridge.
will
It's a
fight you.
I
great
That's
mean,
a great
scene, but
set
it
piece.
serves no
it,
point.
that saves the whole movie for me. Just having these swinging testicle cages underneath the bridge. I mean, that's just
I mean,
hilarious.
it's like looking at two testicles. I don't know. Like, it felt a little aimless, sure, but I was still enjoying myself. Like, I wasn't like feeling the running time too much or anything.
Oh my god.
Like
And
I don't know. I
Elizabeth,
enjoyed it.
what the fuck did they do to Elizabeth in this film? Like she
What?
has no purpose being here. Like
Yeah,
her
I agree
entire
with that.
purpose is just to like
She's
be
probably the
one
least big.
step behind everybody. And
Yeah,
like the film is constantly justifying her existence. That shitty fucking love triangle that they try to throw down our throats between her and Jack and Will, like fuck you.
oh yeah,
I
that was
can't believe you
stupid.
went there.
She's the worst part about this movie. I'll agree with that. The writers clearly just had like no idea how to put her in this movie, which they kind of redeem a little bit in the next movie, but we'll get to that
I
in a little.
disagree, but
I
like
oh
again, it
yeah.
goes to that point of just like, why would you wrap this character's arc so perfectly in the first one, in a nice, neat little bow, and then undo it in this
Well,
movie
because it made no
for no
sense
fucking
to be in a
reason?
nice little
Because
bow.
it made money, and they
I
gotta write her back in because money.
But I
They
mean,
made
there's
money.
bound to be consequences for what they did. Like they helped the pirate escape. Like that's a big deal. And
That's
if I
I don't
something
know
that
about
liked
you
it.
guys,
gets
but I
addressed
don't want to
immediately,
see what
where
Yeah,
happens after
they bring up like a
the
warrant for
reason
their
it's
arrest
called
in the very
Moire.
beginning,
yeah.
and I thought that was kind of cool. I thought it'd been cool to see leading up to the wedding more than just before. Like I feel like there was some dramatic tension there they just kind of didn't show.
But
So maybe there was some potential loss there,
yeah, they made
and
that stuff cut out.
Even the stuff
yeah,
with
like
Will, like why are we going into like his father issues? Like I thought the
I
whole
love
point was
that.
like in the first
That was
film
great.
that he resolved his father's issues.
Well,
The
no,
first
the
film he's
first
like, oh my dad
the
wasn't a
first
pirate.
film.
He's like,
Well,
like
here's the thing. The first film was about him coming to terms that he was related to a pirate. The second film is realizing what that life has done to his father and what that means to be a pirate. Like, I think it's a good
yeah,
extension
he's
off
got
of
a
that.
starfish on his face.
Yeah, I know. Great makeup too, by the way. Great makeup, and again, still great special effects. Like Davy Jones looks fantastic. I love like all the
oh,
little
100%,
details, like
It
with his
holds.
100% agree on
tentacles.
It's
that.
shocking. Like that. How old is that movie now? Like 2006.
It looks brand new.
It's almost a 20-year film, and those are some pioneering digital effects at the time, and they hold up pretty damn well.
Yeah,
I have to say.
Very damn
Yeah.
well. If you release this film like right today, the exact same way it was, like people would still say that these special effects were fucking awesome.
I'd say they
Oh,
look
yeah.
better than Dead Man Tell No Tales, which came out in like 2017, like 11 years later, and it looks way shittier.
And well, Tad, this is just a random aside, but I remember seeing them promo what was it? Yeah, on Stranger Tides, and I just remember off just like the art the cover art for it, and just seeing like one they're resurrecting this franchise that we thought was done with 3 films, and everything just looks cleaner, like like the way Jack Sparrow looked, he didn't look as dirty or as gritty. And I know that they had shot it like digitally on like red cameras and such, but it looks like a little more cartoony than the sort of gritty realism that we had with these other films, and I'm wondering if that holds true in the movie or if that's just my memory of seeing the
It's
poster
a
art.
little bit. I don't think it's as bad as you say. Like there is
Mhm.
still a lot of dark and gritty stuff in Stranger Tides. Like the mermaid scene in particular is fucking horrifying.
Eh.
Like,
Mm.
oh, are you? Wait a minute. Are you seriously saying that you didn't like the mermaid scene?
I
That's
mean,
like
I like the
didn't.
mermaid
I
scene. I
didn't
didn't say
even
it was
see it.
horrifying. Like,
I
it's
didn't
nowhere
even
near as
see it.
horrifying as like
No,
seeing
no, like
the Dutchman crew for the
I,
first time, or seeing the
no
skeletons in the
way.
first
Man.
movie.
I'm
He
saying I
has
didn't
like
even.
that one
I
guy
didn't even
who's
see
like,
the fourth one. But I'm just
okay,
from what I remember seeing from the promo material when it came out, this just looks like a lot more cleaned up than it should be. Like, um, and I know that they went from shooting on film to shooting on these like Red cameras, which were brand new, and they had like the 3D dual camera setup that was popular at the time with movies like Prometheus and others. So it was maybe it was just a bit of culture shock going from film to digital at the time. But actually no, I
possibly.
never.
I mean, it's also different
Yeah,
directors too. So like, I would
different
imagine that.
directors, different everything. It felt like it was coming from a different place, and so I was just like, eh.
Which
I,
I
I
don't mind. I don't mind that. Like again, like that's kind of the thing why I think like every movie should have been kind of like its own little one and done story.
fair
Because
enough. I
like,
think that would have. I think that would have. You know, done more for it if they did it that
I
way.
feel
Yeah.
like they should have just taken out Elizabeth and agreed. Like, I actually kind of like where they took Will in this movie. The next movie, he doesn't have anything to fucking do, but in this movie, until the end, which we'll get to, but this movie, like, I actually like where they took his character. I'm like, huh, I don't hate watching scenes with Will for once. He doesn't seem like as much of a block of wood when it kind of fits the situation that he's in. He's actually using
Well,
emotions of some kind and trying to find clever ways out of trouble. And that was like
there was a
interesting
really
to watch.
yeah. There was a really great video that highlighted a scene that I completely overlooked watching this film for the first time, and I paid a little more attention to it watching it this time. But they broke down the whole liar's dice scene between
Yes.
Davy Jones and Orlando Bloom and his father, and how that is sort of like a microcosm for the whole trilogy. I thought it was really interesting kind of breakdown. I'm not gonna kind of sum up the points here, but I like. But apparently, like the way the editing uh, kind of cut it down, it really butchered it, and it would have made it more thematically relevant if they kept the longer cut of it. But they were figured that the movie was long enough anyway, I guess. Um,
so
which
they
leads
should
me
have
to the
just
other
cut
thing,
this
like
cannibal scene
the, the,
and
the,
then.
the, yeah, there's a lot going on in this film that I just kind of glaze over. Like even though there's a lot of interesting things, it's just like I can't even pick apart what was relevant or what was useful or what
Eh,
really makes this poignant. I mean, there's just a lot that goes on.
I think both this
I'd
and the
agree
third
with
one
it.
have the same problem where like there's a lot of scenes that are just like fluff. They're just kind of
Hmm.
there. Like they
Yeah,
don't really serve a
I
purpose.
agree with that. Well, my problem is that the movies get too convoluted. Like at World's End, like there were several points where I was just like, I gotta be
Mm.
honest, Mom, I don't know what the fuck is happening. Like I don't know what's
Well,
happening, and I don't understand like how these pirates movies, where it's like it should be so simple. It's like the good pirates face off against like the nasty pirates, and it's a swashbuckling venture. Like I don't need like a third movie that goes like this character
almost
is
like
working for who,
Stranger
this character
Tides
is siding
was.
with this character is siding with them. It's like
Yeah.
too complicated. Like it
Well,
makes no sense. But in this movie, I don't know. Like part of it is pointless. You know, Keira Knightley is annoying in this movie, but I don't know. I still don't hate it. It has a I don't know, kind of like
So
a
basically,
blockbuster, old blockbuster, like 2000s blockbuster charm to it that I can't help but find kind of lovable. Like I really enjoy
you
this movie.
agree that it should have been just like what Stranger Tide was. Gotcha. Cool.
No, no. On Stranger's
That's
Tides was a
exactly what
really
you just
boring.
said.
No, on Stranger's Tide is a really boring, blandly shot, boringly acted, offshoot adventure. Where it's like this one is like I don't know, like it has like a nice sense of mystery to it. There's Davy Jones is a great villain. Like I feel like there's more that this film fleshes out than that movie does. And again, like the atmosphere adds so much to it. Like the opening shot of the Dutchman's crew like slowly rising up in the rain. It's like you don't see this kind of imagery in live action Disney movies anymore. Like everything in
Uh,
those movies is just so safe and so bland and so great. Like this is
I
like
think this movie
exciting and interesting visually.
I think this movie should have just been Jack Sparrow trying to outsmart Davy Jones. That's all it should have been. I don't
well,
think we needed
Well, yeah,
Will.
those are
I
the
don't
best
think
parts of
we
the movie.
needed Elizabeth.
Well, Will trying to outsmart
Bring
him
back
was clever too.
Norrington. I thought he was cool. Like he would make a great secondary antagonist or whatever.
I mean, he's
well, like,
in the movie.
but like, here's the other thing. Everyone has their own favorite characters, and they kind of nitpick the cast of what characters they want to see go on an adventure. And I think if you're a Disney executive, it's like, well, we kind of want to have them all in there because we've established all these, different people, and it's hard to really pick which characters are the more interesting. Where,
Yeah, and Disney executives don't know how to make movies. That's why they hire directors and screenwriters.
Yeah,
yeah,
to do it for them.
yeah, and yet they're the most successful at making them financially speaking. Um, so it's kind of hard to knock, but they're
That's up for
at the
debate.
top. They're well they're on the top of their game, at least looking at the money the money they're making.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that amount of money leads to artistic merit,
But
but
like the first, no, because the first one was very much like the studios were against it from the start. They didn't want to make that movie, and like the only thing that made it good and made money was Gore Verbinski and the screenwriters knew what the fuck they were doing.
Well, I'd say Gore
Like,
Verbinski knew what he was doing. Like, I think the directing like still carries this franchise. Like, this still has a style and an identity and an atmosphere to it. It doesn't feel like it could have just been made by the next Hollywood schmuck. Like, the filmmaking at the very least has a personality to it. The characters still feel like Pirates of the Caribbean characters, and they're still, even though they don't have as much to do in this movie, they're still like really fun to watch. They still play off each other in entertaining ways. The joke I wanted to talk about with the duo, by the way, like they're on a ship and like the other guy's reading the Bible. It's like, you know, you can't read. It's like, it's the Bible. You get credit for trying. And I just like, it's such a dumb joke, but for some reason I just bursted out laughing at that. I was just like, okay,
yeah,
you got
like
me.
those are two comedic relief characters that I actually didn't mind, and I
I
actually
know.
liked how I think it was in the third one, which we'll get to soon. It's like the Jack Sparrow, Leonard Bloom, and Barbossa are all fighting, and then these two guys just kind of walk in saying, "Hey, what's going on here?" And then the one person is sort of creating this outside commentary. It almost felt like meta commentary, like the
oh,
audience is
that's this
watching
one.
and trying
Yeah,
to. Oh, that is this one.
It is this one.
yeah.
That's the thing. Like, I can't distinguish the last two films very well in recall.
I get that.
You know what I mean? And there's that dramatic tension of Jack Sparrow dies at the end of the second one, but we all know he's coming back because
Yeah, that was kind
he's
of
the
lame.
cash cow of the whole franchise. And I feel like just knowing that kind of undermines it a little bit. Like, I remember feeling like, oh no, he might actually be dead. When I was watching as a kid, but watching it now, it's like, yeah, he's gonna be back. I know that. So
It kind of
that
sucks we have to.
scene kind of it just totally killed any dramatic tension that has. That said, though, leading into the third one where he ends up, uh, I actually quite like, uh,
Hmm.
which I guess we'll have to get into. But I don't know what else to add for this particular film. I think like our discussions are just gonna bleed into these two films anyway. At least that's where they are in my brain right now. Like I have a hard time thinking them as separate titles. They just one kind of just bleeds into the
It
other.
doesn't help that they were
Um,
made so close to each other, and like both
oh yeah,
films have Davy Jones as the main
literally a year
villain
apart.
too, which
They
also
were
I think
helps
they
them.
were made back to back. Yeah.
yeah, sequentially.
Matrix style.
So
Yeah, let's talk
it
about.
goes.
Yeah, go on.
I mean, I was gonna just say my rating, but
No, go on.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what else to add. It kind of goes from a solid 8 to like a muddy 6.9. Like it's still good, but I don't know what to think of it.
Well, let's say 6.9, just because you gave the
Sure.
last one an 8. So yeah, I wanted to talk about two things. That wheel, like the set pieces in this movie are kind of great. Like I'd argue they're even better than the first films.
Oh
I,
yeah, the
I
wheel was actually pretty fun.
the wheel fight scene is so fun and so creative and was apparently like a really dangerous to shoot. Like I think like Jack Sparrow
Oh
almost got
fuck.
ran over. Sorry, Johnny Depp almost got ran over by the wheel at one point because he fell over by accident. The wheel just like whooshed right past his head.
Yeah,
Like,
more than a couple points, and they actually did a really good job with the shot coverage of it. Like there was this one
oh
shot
yeah,
that follows with the wheel and you see just gravity shifting around, and I thought that was really clever the way they shot that. And watching this, I'm like, they could have easily messed up continuity or could have made this really hard to follow with where they're positioned and where he's grabbing stuff. But they did such a good job tracking that and cutting it together. So I was like, I was really appreciating how they put that scene together actually. Like, because I've seen other filmmakers or lesser filmmakers try something this intricate around like a just a novel idea, and
yeah.
they would just they would cut around in a way that just made the geography of everything unclear, where it was very easy to follow and track how things were moving, which made me think a little bit of Mad Max Fury Road, just in terms of
A
the
little
shot
bit, yeah.
coverage and the sequencing. Like it was very clear and easy to follow. Uh, which I thought was great because it would have had a lot of complications and been dangerous working around a broken off wheel like that.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
mean,
like
yeah,
there's so
I'm
much
glad that they
passion
like.
put into it for a sequel that was, is supposedly considered like so mid and so forgettable. Like I don't know, like I feel like I like these sequels better than the Matrix sequels. I like these sequels better than the prequels. I don't know, I still get
Yeah.
a kick out of them. Call it nostalgia.
I mean, there's a lot of fun stuff that happens in them, but when I think about the thing overall, it's just kind of muddy for me. It's just like
That's
this
fair.
muddy green moss color of a movie, and it's just like, wait, what even happens in this one? And then you bring up a scene like the wheel sequence. Oh yeah, that was good. Like little moments, little sequences like that are really fun in their own, but then put like together in this one thing, I don't know what they add up to. It just becomes kind of a muddy thing, like I was saying, just in terms of me recalling
Yeah,
like the experience watching these films.
fair enough. Tad, what would you give this film out of 10 before I give it my final rating? I feel like I'm done with it too.
Um, I'll give it a 4.5. I mean, it's fine. Like it's definitely my third
4.5 is
favorite
fine.
of. Pardon?
4.5 is fine.
Yeah, I'd say it's fine. I mean, it's below average, but like not terribly below average. Like it's just
Okay,
kind of
yeah,
average.
yeah, that sounds good. That's right. You broke my, you
Um.
tore out my heart a little bit like Davy Jones, but that's alright.
Ah. Tell me, Ian. Do you fear death? Like.
No, that I welcome you to join the Touchman's crew. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. Well, look here, boys.
Oh,
Yeah. No. I don't know. Like this whole movie just kind of was boring for me. I didn't really latch on to anything other than Davy Jones and Jack Sparrow's kind of plight. I think the bringing back Will and Elizabeth and especially Barbosa at the end of this. Fuck
oh
that.
yeah, that's the worst part. I'll give you that.
Yeah,
Uh,
I
That was
still don't
so
understand
dumb
why he comes back in the film other
because
than,
they
hey,
liked him in the
Jeffrey
first
Rush
movie.
played it. Yeah, he was here like, no, seriously, like I don't get plot wise what brought him back. I know corporate wise, I know like, hey,
That's
he
why he
liked we
came
liked him as
back.
a villain, bring him back. Yeah,
Yeah,
but did
it's
they
so
even
stupid.
explain it? Yeah, it's just like,
He's just back, yeah, and they build it up like an epic Avengers reveal, and it's like he chews the apple and a monkey comes out. Like this is like if you end the movie 5 minutes before that, this movie's like a 9 out of 10, but that made it an eight
no,
out of
no,
ten. I think
no.
this movie is
I,
still
I,
kind of great. I give it a reluctant 8 out of 10, but I give it an 8 out of 10 nonetheless. Like I don't know, I still really enjoyed it. I still think it's the
so
kind of blockbuster we don't get enough of.
I
this
just think
is
that just nothing happens until like the final like fight scene at the end of the film. Like there's just nothing that
Well, I mean,
really.
there's tension build. Well, it's about building tension and like between the two characters, which is something else I appreciate about it. Like it's a big budget blockbuster with a lot of scenes of just like building tension between characters. I'm like, I kind of respect its patience, even though it does like mean that the film drags a little bit because of that. The stuff of Jack, yeah, I agree. It feels kind of like fluff, but I mean, it was
lots
entertaining
of like
fluff.
exposition dumps because they're just constructing how this world works and how the curses work, and it's
Yeah,
kind of it the realm of the mystical for sure with the whole curse, but it was a little more clear. Like it made a little more sense, even though there were some things that did made like add up, like why some of the pirates feel pain and other ones don't. Um,
yeah,
so
like
they
the
kind of
first
they
film.
start to break their own rules, but for the most part, it's grounded in a mostly familiar like reality. Like you could relate to it a little bit more. This one goes into more of that mystical realm where people have been living underwater and there are these like half castration things, and those are some really cool images, and it definitely plays into those like those myths of stories that were around the sea, but it's hard to it does feel a little more detached from the reality of the first film a little bit.
I mean,
Um,
I don't know if the
but
first film was exactly going for that. I think
yeah,
it just kind of ended up that way, potentially for budget
true.
reasons
It,
or
it,
story
it, it
reasons.
just feels a little more grounded in comparison. Like the
Yeah,
first one feels a little
that's
more
true.
grounded. This one feels like it's kind of partway there. Where I appreciate the third one because it almost goes for brief moments, almost goes completely into that kind of absurd metaphysical realm a little bit that I love playing in. Um, Particularly all the sequences of him, of Jack Sparrow in Davy Jones' locker, and he's sort of in this like this sort of vacant kind of stone field for a while,
Yeah.
and it's just this realist imagery of him talking to himself and him being like every member of the crew, and which would be his own kind of version of hell or limbo, right? So all those sequences I just had a kick out of because it kind of,
Yeah.
that's probably the most surrealistic type imagery that we've seen from Disney since Fantasia,
It's the
arguably. There
most
might there,
Rango scene in the movie, which is also
oh,
directed by
that's
Gore Verbinski.
we have to talk about Rango at some point. And I was
Yes, we
proposing
do.
a follow up to our next week's episode, which is going to be last week's episode, is going to be which I won't say too much about, but it does take place in the West.
Yeah. What's that
But
World's
Rango
End
might
about,
come up
Devin?
as oh yeah, it was Wild Wild West. That was it. But no, I World's End. It's the third one. Uh, um, Jack is in Davy Jones's locker, which evidently is not a locker. It's more like limbo. It's sort of like hell for pirates. And I thought the way they visualized it was rather interesting, and I really appreciated it. It's the part of the movie that I enjoyed the most. Um, and then after that, the movie just keeps going for like two more hours. And I honestly
Yeah.
tell you what the rest of the movie is about. In all honesty, I'll just read what the IMDb synopsis says because it'll
Okay.
have a more of a clear recall than I do. Captain Barbossa, who's back for some reason, Will Turner and Elizabeth Swann must sail off the edge of the map, navigate treachery and betrayal, find Jack Sparrow, and make their final alliances for one last decisive battle. Well, it was pretty decisive for the time. Later.
Heh.
um, but yeah, I like the tension that they established in that like the first hour of this film feels like the movie, and then the rest of it just feels like extra stuff.
Well, it feels like
Um,
extra stuff until like the final battle. They're just like, oh, it's a movie
yeah,
again.
it's a lot of stuff in the middle, like
Yeah,
there's
I wholeheartedly
I
agree.
would actually say that first hour is also kind of like just fluff. I mean, really, like,
true.
what's
I
the
think the
fucking point
opening
of
is
any of
great.
that stuff at the beginning?
I mean, the
Other than
opening
like
is
having,
Like
great.
I remember it completely blew my mind when they were like capsizing the ship and then rise. Like I thought that was really cool, even though everybody should have died, doing that. and
Yeah.
and they all would have fucking drowned. But I remember that blowing my mind as a kid, just them kind of going to this upside down realm in that kind of way, and I enjoy that stuff still. Um,
Mm.
I'm just gonna keep talking about that because that was the highlight of the movie for me, and I honestly can't even remember the rest.
Yeah, I
I'm
agree.
like,
Like
hey, this is cool.
it starts off great, it ends great, and the stuff in the middle is just kind of the stuff in the middle. It's very much
Yeah.
fluff with a capital F.
This is
Yeah,
this is the most expensive stuff in the middle too. Like this was at the time the most
yeah,
expensive
a
film,
lot of just
not
showing
adjusting
off
for
special
inflation.
effects for the sake of it.
Um,
Like that whole scene where they go into water is like, yeah, okay, that was just to show off special effects. That could have been cut out. That
it
didn't add
had
anything.
more. This had more money than all three Lord of the Rings movies combined.
Yeah,
300
it
million.
is insane. Yeah, $300 million, and yeah, they definitely had to get as much money out of it as possible. I'll give them
It's a
that.
it's that's a lot of smoke
That's
and mirrors
crazy.
that
Three
they put
hundred
money
million?
into.
Like that's more than
300 million.
I think that's almost as much as Endgame. Like Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
Holy shit. I will easily agree that this is the worst of the trilogy. There's a lot about it I don't like, but
But memes.
I still enjoy it as a guilty pleasure. I don't hate it.
There's that shot of Jack just looking all puzzled when all
Yeah.
these giant, rock crabs are carrying the ship for him.
Classic.
Um,
Yeah, that's the
you know,
perfect face. In fairness, like that's like the director was just
you
like,
know,
yes.
I think you can rate these films by their mimetic value. Like the first film
yeah,
is
okay.
has the "Why is the rum gone?" Like that was the highlight meme of that movie. And then this one, it's just Jack looking puzzled as fuck, which is
Sums up the
very
feeling.
which is very much how I feel watching the movie. So it's
Yes,
quite
Right?
I
apt.
I was just
wholeheartedly
gonna say the
agree.
same thing. That you could
Huh?
pretty much take that face and put like that would be my face throughout the
This
entire
is this is my
movie.
yeah,
With
this is my
like,
face with watching these films.
Yeah, like this is when the movie like the second movie was complicated. This movie is like way too puzzlingly complicated. Again, like this is such a simple narrative on paper. Like I don't need to know about all of these betrayals, all of these characters secretly working with each other, all of these characters like changing sides. Like it's kind of missing the tension that was set up in the past two movies when that happened. Now it's just like, all right, come on, we know they're gonna go back to this side, and it's so confusing. And even the ending just kind of feels like, I don't know, all the good guys team up against the bad guys. The two funny British guys for the first movies team up with the good guys. That's it, the end. Like, I feel like this movie was maybe a little rushed. There was like a lot of corners they kind of wrote themselves into. Like, how does Keira Knightley get out of being under the Chinese captain's control? I know, a cannon will come out of literally fucking nowhere, blow up the captain, and on his last breath, he will tell this woman that he just met, that he just met, that he's gonna like make her the new captain. It's like, okay, you clearly just wrote yourself into a corner and you had to make up some bullshit. Like it didn't.
And then like
Even Dead Man's Chest like didn't
add
get that
insult
bad.
to injury. The only reason they do that is so that later on in the scene, like later on in the movie, she becomes like the pirate lord, and like
Yeah. Like I kind of
they
appreciate
this, like,
they give her more to
like,
do, which I appreciate, but it
oh my
also kind of
God.
feels like people complain about her not doing anything in the second movie, so they're just kind of making up for it in this movie. And it feels like they're trying a little too hard. Like, okay, she's literally a pirate lord now and doing a motivational speech. All right, come on.
But here's the
I
thing:
mean,
she
it
accomplishes
it did make
nothing.
sense. Yeah. I
She
mean,
accomplishes nothing. Like the
I
whole reason they made her a pirate lord was so that when they had the vote whether or not to release Calypso, she was the deciding vote that said no, we don't do that. But then later on, they fucking do it anyways.
Yeah, I know.
So like,
It's kind of pointless.
that
No,
whole
she's
scene
there
is
to give a
pointless.
motivational speech to help the other characters fight at the end. Like,
She
it's
doesn't
just
give
there
it.
so
Jack
that can
Sparrow
happen.
gives it.
Well, no, she gives it, but Jack Sparrow just kind of motivates everyone a little bit. But like the main idea with her character is that like she's trying to drive other characters into action. Jack Sparrow just kind of like nudges it into the right direction. By the way, Keith Richards is in this fucking movie. Best cameo ever. I don't care if you guys hate this movie. That's the best cameo. Plays Jack Sparrow's father.
and you know what's funny? Oh yeah, it is Jack Sparrow's father because
Yep.
that's exactly where he
Yeah.
got inspiration for his character, was from Keith Richards being this bumbling kind of rock star like character. That's how he played his pirate. So
They
that's
also
the
had
perfect
Paul McCartney
homage.
show up in the 5th one as Jack Sparrow's uncle.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. But it's funny that character's called like Calypso because that's like a genre of music that's in the Caribbean, which I find really funny.
Yeah.
I do like that one Jamaican, woman, like
Naomi
she's
Harris.
This, like, witch character. Yeah, she's kind of like this witch character
Witch
at
doctor,
first,
yeah.
and I liked her connection with Davy Jones. Like she, touches him, he touches his face, and all his tentacles go away for a second. I thought that was a nice little moment between them.
That was great. Yeah.
There was some neat stuff happening there.
Mhm.
I can't for the life of me remember
Yeah,
anything else
there's
around it. I
like
just remember
nuggets
this
of.
scene.
I'm kind of with you, Devin. Like, much of it is a blur, but there's still like enough nuggets of greatness that I can enjoy.
This is like finding a few little gold nuggets at the bottom of a seabed. There's a lot of mud and shit that you gotta sift through.
But there's stuff
and
there. There's something there.
Yeah, but is it worth it?
There's a lot of
Yes.
mud
Is
and
it really
fish
worth
shit,
it?
and it just kind of dissipates everywhere. And it just, it's like when you go to the bottom of the seabed and then you just stand on floor that isn't as solid as you thought, and then all this sand just kind of comes up and muddies the water, and you can't see anything clearly.
Yeah,
That's how I feel watching this movie.
It's worth it.
Yeah,
For,
but I think the gold nugget to shit ratio in this movie is not enough for me.
I don't know.
there's
Like,
not
it's worth
really
it for Davy Jones being a great villain. It's worth it for the amazing score and presentation. It's worth it for. I think the opening and final fight scenes are so fun and entertaining and like really creative. I kind of like how they use the heart in the final fight as like a kind of like interesting ticking time bomb and kind of MacGuffin that the characters fight over. I always enjoy like action scenes where like the characters
But they
have to
did
like
the same
fight over
thing in the
something
second
small.
one with the key.
Yeah, they did, but it's kind of like a fun extension off of that. Like it's really fun scene, but yeah, like the stuff in the middle doesn't really have any interesting action scenes. So you can tell they put action in just for the sake of action. But I don't know, like it still has a style and personality. I still love the music. I love the cast, even though Barbosa being in this movie is stupid. I still love him as Barbosa at least. So I enjoyed him being there, even if the reason he was there is really stupid. I I still don't hate it. It's kind of bad, but I also kind of love it. That's my review.
Yeah.
Nah,
It's got some fun moments. I like the surrealistic imagery. It's the closest thing to anything remotely David Lynch that Disney has. Well, I guess Disney helped made Simple Story, didn't they?
Yeah,
Which I
that's true.
still haven't seen. But
But
Yeah,
it's very
and
grounded apparently. Like it's not even like
mhm.
very Lynchian in nature, and yeah, stuff like that. Like that's something you don't really see in modern blockbusters. Just weird, creative, bizarre, like imagery and like kind of dark, creepy moments. And one of the most brutal PG-rated deaths ever, where he just shoves the tentacles, like into Captain Deckhead. I'm just like, holy shit! Like there's no blood, but that is disgusting.
Mhm.
I
That's
don't know,
nasty.
guys. I'm hard against this. Like, it's just there's nothing in
Yeah,
this
I
film that
get that
really appealed to me. Like,
wholeheartedly.
and I think another part is like this film mostly focuses on Cutler Beckett as like the main bad guy, and I'm sorry, he
He's
sucks.
very
Like,
bland.
he is
Yeah.
bland.
He's
He
one
Wait,
of
is
my
who?
least favorite
boring.
characters. Yeah,
And
Cutler
like
Beckett. He's
when
like
you're
the new
putting him,
British general they get to go after everybody.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, he's really bland.
see. I forgot about him. Like
he's
it just
so
Yeah.
boring.
this
Like what,
is like
putting
Norrington
him,
too. I don't know.
Yeah,
but like
Norrington
even
is great in
Norrington
this
has
movie.
character.
Yeah, like Norrington, yeah, like he actually has a nice little redemption arc. And I kind of like how the
Oh,
movie
yeah.
had balls to kill off like a likable character like him. It's like, oh, okay, now I'm kind of invested in these stakes. And even like,
You know
yeah,
what? I think if more people died, it might have helped. The dramatic tension in the movies just
a little bit. Yeah, it's kind of teetering.
like
Like,
there
yeah.
weren't enough. There was so many crazy shit that so much crazy shit that happened and not enough casualties. If more people died, I might have cared more. Which sounds a little morbid to say, but honestly, it's like,
I
why is
get where you're
everyone
coming from.
okay, and why do I stop
Well,
caring?
I would argue I kind of like the bittersweet ending they give Will Turner, where it's like he basically sacrifices himself to free his father and to free the other pirates, like in order, and he's kind of
Does
stuck
he
on the
though?
Dutchman's crew. Like he,
Does he, or does
we don't
Jack do
speak
it
of,
for him?
we don't. What? What do you mean Jack does it
Do,
for him? No, he doesn't. Like Will.
yeah, when Jack is given the heart, and like he's deciding whether or not to stab it and become the Dutchman.
Okay, yeah.
And
Well,
then Will
he
is
stabs
dying.
it, but Will is dying.
Will
But
is dying,
Will
and Jack
still
he
takes on the
put.
responsibility.
No, let me
He's still
fucking finish.
no.
Let me
You're
fucking
not allowed.
finish. He fucking Jack uses Will's hand to stab the fucking heart, so that the Will is the one that becomes the Dutchman. He doesn't make a sacrifice.
Wait,
Jack
no,
makes the
Jack.
sacrifice for him.
Jack stabs the herd on his own. He doesn't get
No,
well
he
started.
doesn't.
What? No, yeah, he does. He's Jack stabs her on his own.
I thought they both did it. I thought it was like a
No, because
true
whoever
fact.
stabs the heart becomes Davy Jones, so it has to
But
be
like
Will.
both of their hands were
Will
on it.
is-
I thought.
Yeah, because Jack manipulated Will's hand so that he stabbed the heart.
I
So that
generally don't
he would
remember that.
become the Davy Jones.
But I still like
And the
how
kind of
only
a
reason
dick
he
move.
did it was because Will was dying. So that was the only way to save Will.
yeah.
Wow.
Well, I still like the idea of like him kind of sacrificing himself to save the others and having a bittersweet ending. It was something kind of
Well,
unique. Okay, well, the idea is still bittersweet, is what I'm getting at. Like it's not like the typical he gets to ride off of his love into the sunset. He's like, yeah, now he's got to take like this huge weight on his shoulders.
It's more. I'd say it's more like bitter sour. Like there's a little bit of sweetness in there, but it's more just like, what the fuck got in this food that I'm eating?
Yeah. All right.
You know, it's
I
just
mean,
like
it's bittersweet in the fact that like he can only visit Elizabeth once every 10 years.
Yeah, that's how I
it,
say it.
like-
it's like whatever I'm eating just kind of went stale, and then I go to wash it down with water, and there's like something in it, and it's just like, am I just like did I get poisoned earlier, and is it just kicking in now? Like what's going on? Like I was eating this really nice banquet before, and it's just slowly deteriorating on me.
You
Oh,
guys are
suddenly I've
mean.
been on this ship for like 10,000 years.
Yeah,
And yeah, where did the time go?
I know.
Can't step out in the moonlight, can you, Devin?
Nope.
Yeah.
I'm done talking about this movie. I mean, yeah.
And with more than half an hour to spare.
Yeah, I know, right? But
Wow.
you know, I mean, yeah, it's kind of bad, but I still kind of enjoy it. It still has a tangible atmosphere to it. I still love the cast. I still love the music. Still love Davy
Got a
Jones.
vibe for sure.
Yeah, like it still has a personality to it, which is why I forgive it over like the Matrix sequels, for example, that are just so bland and forgettable.
It's
That
it's
I just
perfectly passable entertainment that it's that was costed a lot of money to make.
Yeah, a surprising amount of money, which may affect my score a little bit. But what would you guys
And
give it
and
out of
it's,
10?
Stranger
I
Times is
mean,
currently the most expensive film still made today, which is insane
I
to me.
So I've heard.
I
I
guess what
I,
it
I
comes down to is, would you rather bad shit with good personality, or would you rather decent shit with no personality?
I prefer bad shit with good personality
Yeah, I
because
guess.
at
I
least
don't
then I
know.
remember it. The most boring, the biggest insult a film can have is being boring.
No, yeah, you're right. You're right.
oh,
What would you guys give
I
this out of 10?
3.9.
Nice.
I would give it a 5.
I'm,
Really?
I'm giving this one, I was going to give it a
Yeah.
6.5. I'm stuck between that and a 6. I'm giving this one a 6.3 out of 10.
And
Uh,
but before you ask how comfortable this fence I'm sitting on, it's like I don't feel nothing.
you don't even feel any
You know.
sand?
Oh no, that was a couple weeks ago. The sand got irritating. It's just like at the end I just feel cold.
Just cold and miserable. Well, thank you again, Tad, so much for coming on. You're great as usual. Thank you for kind of
Sorry.
putting in your thoughts to this trilogy. And I'm sorry, everybody, about the episode taking so long. Next week, we're actually going to do last week's promised episode. We finally have a way to watch Terror on the Prairie. And we'll also be talking about The Power of the Dog and The Wild Bunch, which I haven't seen The Wild Bunch. I'm kind of excited to talk about because the last movie we talked about on this channel was one of my favorites, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and it was my first time watching it, so I'm excited. Really.
May heaven have mercy on your souls.
Yeah. May heaven
Yes.
have mercy on Ben Shapiro for hating on us when we inevitably review Terror on the Prairie. Thank you guys so much for listening, and as always, stay tuned for Conan. Have a great night, and is it first day yet? Friday, Saturday? Who knows at this point? COVID's messing everybody up. Have a great night,
I'm
everybody.
I'm just waiting for next week when Ben Shapiro tweets at us. What is